I want to thank you for joining us at the 11 Alert Desk this afternoon. I'm Lauren Watson, your digital content manager here at KKTV 11 News. I'm here today with Steve Carlton. He's the Chief Clinical Officer at Porchlight Health. And Steve, I know today we wanted to talk a little bit about alcohol use disorder now. Everybody's getting back into their routine after the holidays. But what does overdoing it over the holidays do when it comes to things like alcohol use disorder?
Yeah, great question, Lauren, and it's good to be with you. With the holidays bring like huge disruptions in our schedule and routine, and oftentimes it also comes with increased drinking and just using other substances in general. So when that happens, I mean, there's the obvious things, weight gain, right? But the more subtle symptoms as well. People get more fatigued. People's sleep is interrupted. There's also more stress and anxiety during the holidays, right? We think about that as a really celebratory time, but the other side of that is it also comes with a lot of stress. And so January is a time when people can kind of recalibrate and start some new habits.
Yeah, speaking of habits and things that people do, a lot of people do dry January. Does something like this actually do anything for your health?
Absolutely, yeah. There's been lots of studies, and there's some real benefits to dry January. Improves sleep. The opposite is sort of what happens on the negative side during the holidays. Improves. You have more energy. You're physically more healthy. You lose weight. Your sleep is better. You improve focus. So dry January, even just stopping for a month, has real health benefits to it. It's something people out there should consider.
What options are there for people who might not necessarily want to quit drinking altogether, but who know or that they need to or might want to cut back on their drinking habits?
Yeah, absolutely. So dry January is sort of committing to not drinking for the entire month of January. Do you need to commit to stopping for the entire month to get some benefit and to improve health? No, right? There's other options. It's always a good time just to look at your drinking patterns, right? Like how many days a week am I drinking? How many drinks am I drinking in an evening on the weekdays and the weekends, right? What do you want those levels to be? Right? How many days a week are you comfortable sort of with having an alcoholic beverage? How many at a time are you comfortable with? And practically speaking, there's just lots of really easy things that you can do um, to recalibrate. Right? There's not having an abundance of alcohol in the home. Right? Only sort of buying small amounts and keeping it at home. There's just if you go out to a bar or social setting limits in between alcoholic beverages, having a mocktail, right? Having a glass of water, right? Just slowing down that pace. And I think if you start to see that you're having trouble keeping those limits and you're consistently going over it, like that's a time when you should consider is this potentially becoming a problem.
Now, I know in our past conversations, we've talked a lot about accountability, having someone to help keep you accountable. How does having that person help, in these goals of cutting back or quitting altogether?
Well, I think when you think about sort of the severe end of the spectrum of addiction, right? Addiction is a very isolating problem, right? People are typically very lonely. While drinking starts out as a social thing, over time people lose more and more relationships, and so leaning into the opposite of that, if you're trying to cut back or reduce the harm caused by alcohol, is having somebody to partner with and do it with you, or just having somebody to check in with about your progress and how things are going. Just talking about things out loud makes them more real, and it's something that people should consider if they're thinking about making adjustments or changes to their drinking habits.
What if there is someone who has, tried everything they can and they are still having trouble cutting back on their drinking habits?
Yeah, and that's the most common. So when we think about substance use disorders, it's a spectrum, and people should think about it as a spectrum, as not all or none, right? We oftentimes think about substance use as I don't have a problem and I don't need to change anything, or I do have a problem and I need to be completely abstinent. And really, how we measure it is mild, moderate, severe, right? And so if you're on that moderate or mild end of the spectrum, there's lots of ways you can sort of change that. If you're noticing that you're consistently losing control over how much and how often you drink, you're not sticking to those limits, that's a sign. If you're experiencing more social, occupational, work consequences, that's a sign. If you're taking risks, driving drunk, doing things that could cause you or other people harm while using, that's a sign. And then lastly is the physiological, right? So your body is dependent on that substance. You have an increased tolerance, withdrawals. Those are the things to look out for. And if that's happening, seeking care is probably a good idea.
And what are some of the treatment options for people who may be dealing with alcohol use disorder or substance use disorder like that?
Well, Porchlight, we have a really great alcohol use disorder program. It's a drinking less project. So if you're just interested in coming in and talking to a therapist about your level of drinking and really just explore your relationship with alcohol, I think you can come and talk to one of our graduate level therapists for 4 quick sessions, and that can be a really good option. There's tremendous resources online. Psychology Today is a great resource to look and find for a therapist, or looking on the SAMHSA website, or just doing a Google search for addiction resources in your area. All good options if you're curious.
Now, Steve, we're about to wrap up this afternoon. You mentioned some of the treatment options at Porchlight Health. If people are looking for you or looking for Porchlight and some of those resources, where can they find you?
Absolutely. 866-MAT-STAT is our number, and that's a great place to start. Porchlighthealth.com is another great option, and we're just a great option that we offer therapy. Primarily, we offer medications for addiction treatment, so we help people reduce or eliminate substance use through the use of medical care and medications, and we also offer psychiatric services. So if people are not only struggling with a substance use problem, but also mental health, we can help people with that as well. So, thanks, Lauren.
Of course. Is there anything that we haven't touched on or that we did touch on that you really want to emphasize before we get going this afternoon?
No, I don't think so. I encourage everybody out there that if you have questions about your alcohol, just think about your limits. Think about, what is my relationship with alcohol and what do I want it to be, right? And if you need help, reach out. Ask somebody for help.
Steve Carlton, Chief Clinical Officer at Porchlight Health, thank you so much for joining us here at the 11 Alert Desk today.
Thank you.